So Leah, I asked one question.
Yeah.
Actually, I asked two questions, but I will interject here and there. But this is your journey. What is your journey with ADHD? And I know that's a loaded question, but I like people to tell their ADHD story their way.
Yeah,
Self-diagnosed,
yeah,
diagnosed by a professional, all those things. I want to hear about them.
yeah.
So,
See, the thing for me is I feel like I haven't really got much of a story because I'm 23
okay.
now and I was diagnosed when I was 21. So quite late, really.
Another
Um,
late diagnosis. I see it
yeah, which
every.
seems to be the case, especially for women,
Yep.
it seems to be the case,
Yep.
which is it's interesting. Um, when I was young, I didn't really have any glaringly obvious signs. What I feel like a lot of people associate with ADHD, which is speaking when not supposed to and fidgeting and blah, blah, blah. And all those things are signs of ADHD, but that wasn't what I was. And like with school and everything, I had no real problems. I passed, like I wasn't like incredible top of the class, but I
Right.
was average. I passed tests. I finished GCSEs with like mostly B's, some C's, so very bang middle kind of.
I'd have killed for that because I was
Yeah.
a stereotypical ADHD person that was failing like
Yeah,
everything they
yeah.
took. But
Which is the case for a lot of people with ADHD. I know a lot of my friends who have it with the same, where they needed extra help in school and stuff like that. And
yeah,
I feel like it's easy to miss when that's not the case for you. I did have a lot of like mental health issues growing up, which potentially could be related with ADHD. I know with ADHD there's a lot of like comorbid symptoms or disorders, or also just you're more likely to experience certain things if you have
right.
ADHD. So growing up, I had like huge social phobia, and because I grew up on a street very close to everybody, and we all went to the same school, I never really had to expand outside of that. So when my parents would try
Right.
and force me into little, go do this class or go do swimming, I would panic and be screaming and be so easily overstimulated by meeting new people. It was
Wow.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
It's
not
it's
fun.
it's amazing how ADHD is so different for every person.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it is.
like for me, I was the social. I wanted to go out and meet everybody, but don't
Yeah,
put me in a fucking classroom. Like
yeah.
you put me in a classroom and I cower. Like I am uncomfortable as shit.
Was it like
With
certain time periods for you or anything? Because like for me, I loved being in a classroom. That was perfect for me.
it was basically it was being dictated
Mm,
to like I wasn't interested in
yeah, yeah,
the stuff that they were putting forth.
yeah.
So
Understandable.
what it came to, and they did give accommodations. Oh, here's extra time on tests. Well,
Yeah,
for me, that didn't do shit because I never studied for it. It only gives me
yeah,
extra time to realize how bad I'm failing this test. So why don't
yeah.
we
I
shorten the time?
agree. Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's like extra 15 minutes. I'm like, great, I have 15 minutes more to sit and do nothing or
Right, right.
God, like, why am I here for more time? Like, I don't want to be here for the time you've given me.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
I'm sorry for
horrible.
interrupting there.
No, no,
But that's
it's fine.
but back to your journey.
Um, yeah, so like for me growing up, like that was the big issue, was the social side of it. But being in the classroom, I just kind of like my comments were always, oh, she doesn't participate very much. Oh, it'd be nice if you spoke up more. It was always that kind of
Oh
conversation
God.
rather than she's too loud, shut up. Except from in like two classes where I was sat next to my best friend, and then we would speak all the time and get told off. But otherwise, I had no real problems. And then towards, I think like year six into year seven, so like ages 10 through to like 12, maybe, I developed uh, an eating disorder, which
Huh.
retrospectively looking back on it, I think was AFRID. It was very anxiety driven by
Right.
food, not by like weight or anything. And again, that went very much ignored. I remember being young and sat on the living room floor, and my parents being like, "Do you think she has anorexia?" And me being like, "What does that mean?" And then being like, "It's nothing, don't worry." And that never was something that was
Right.
diagnosed for me. And then going into secondary school, like the social anxiety has kind of always been the big thing for me. That didn't really disappear as such until I was about like going into university, really. Um, and it was just the same story, really. I never really struggled with tests or classroom and
Right.
stuff. I did end up going to like counseling for like depression and stuff like that. And I just feel like I kind of blended in with everyone. Like I was more on the emo scene subculture side. So there was always that
Right.
kind of like different to everyone part of me there, but um never anything unusual. And then when I was 16, I started having panic attacks, and that became a big deal. And I ended up spiraling into being agoraphobic, so I didn't actually leave the house for about 3 years. Um,
Unbelievable.
yeah, that
That
was really tough of
yeah, I can't imagine if I couldn't leave like that's
yeah.
different to me. And you mentioned earlier about you know the lake diagnosis. Sorry, lake diagnosis. I'm on a lake right now. Late diagnosis. Nice work, Lobal. Uh, but it's basically every single woman I've spoken with has been late diagnosed, and I think I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I think it's because ADHD is labeled as like the 12-year-old boys syndrome, to
It
where
is.
like well, guys are overdiagnosed, girls are
Mhm.
underdiagnosed because
Yeah,
of course, the 12-year-old kid that can't sit still in class, if it's a guy, they're like, oh, they have ADHD automatically. Well,
yeah.
no, it's just the subject you're teaching is boring as fuck, and
Yeah,
I can't sit still during this. But then history class, great, fine,
yeah.
whatever. And so it's like, oh, automatic ADHD. Whereas with women, I think it presents itself internally more.
It does. Yeah, I've
It's
heard
not
that.
the hyperactive like me, for example, going
Yeah,
crazy or
very
whatever.
much
It's
internal.
just an internal restlessness that
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people describe it as like they're more daydreamy, typically women, which was a huge thing for me.
right.
Like maladaptive daydreaming was such a huge coping mechanism. I think that's why I enjoyed being in the classroom because it was a time where I could just sit and
Yeah.
be this. I wasn't paying attention, but I was still
And yet
there
you
and
still
I still
passed,
shut
which
up.
was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I still passed. Like I looked, the thing is like that's the thing is I kind of get into it because it's more of my like when I was getting diagnosed, but I'm a very academic person. I love learning. I love
Right.
studying. I love reading and learning new things. So, and I think that's a lot of the part where people tend to be diagnosed with ADHD, especially at a younger age, is through education.
Yeah.
And because I love education, it was something I'd never even considered
Yeah.
growing up. So it wasn't actually until I was in university, and I don't think I know anyone actually personally who isn't neurodivergent or has some kind of mental health, or if it's not that, then it's some other struggle that they have.
Right.
Um, that they started being like, well, that's not normal that you're having a breakdown because you
Well,
can't
yeah.
yet, quote unquote normal,
Yeah.
that you have a breakdown every time you can't decide if you do your hair first or do your makeup first. And that's not normal that you forget that you're cooking food and the fire alarm goes off and things like that. And
Been there as well.
yeah, I forgot I was cooking noodles and had to throw them away once. It was devastating. I was so hungry. Yeah, so at that point, I kind of started being like, is this something that I should look into? And when I did, I started looking into specifically, 'cause one of my closest friends is autistic, and she was telling me that it's the same kind of situation where women are very underdiagnosed. And she was like, you should look into it because it's often different. Um, and so I did, and it was like a really weird moment that because I'm not that typical, like you
Right.
said, stereotypical
Ex-
12-year-old boy syndrome, it was like this weird identity thing that I was going through. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a week to write down anything that comes up that's not quote unquote normal that I think
right.
that could be a reason. Because for going in the UK, also we have the NHS, and you can go through them for assessments, but it often takes 2 to 3 years on the wait list.
and money, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
literally
usually free,
it.
but you just push back and back. Like I had a
Yeah.
friend, for example, when she moved to Sheffield, where I went to university, she moved doctors, and so she was on the wait list already for ADHD for years, and then they moved her back to the beginning because she moved doctors. And by the time she got to the top of the list, she moved back to her hometown, so she was once again back at the bottom. So for me, I needed it for my final year of university. So I was like, okay, it's £700 to get diagnosed, and that's
700.
yeah, £700, and that's cheap. My
So,
friend who
so that's like $25 million US, I think.
had something like yeah,
But
yeah,
but
it's ridiculous
wow.
how much it is. Yeah, and like my friend for autism diagnosis, she paid £2,000. Like that's even worse. How much you have to pay for autism diagnosis?
So and
Um,
when you have mental health like this, you can't wait to get
mhm,
that diagnosis.
yeah,
So that's like the least courteous way of telling someone you give a shit about them is to be
yeah,
like, "Oh,
yeah.
you're
It's
on a
kind of
waiting list." Are you?
money.
That
Yeah,
will make them
it's
worse.
ridiculous. Yeah, and that's like
Ugh,
it's
sorry, I
I
get
feel
mad occasionally
yeah,
about these things.
I feel like it's a very big privileged thing to have a diagnosis. This is my issue with like, and I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but
Oh no,
older
it's ADHD
people, yeah,
podcast. We're
it's what we
yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah.
I like one of the things I see is a lot of people, kind of what you were saying about like boys typically maybe overdiagnosed. I feel like there's a lot of issues with social media these days, especially things like TikTok, where people will be like, if you can't sit still, you have ADHD. And people are like, oh my God, that's not normal. Do I have ADHD? And people are so quick to grab onto these labels. But at the same time, there's people who have such a huge problem with self-diagnosis. But when
Yeah.
you look at things like that, where you can either be on a waiting list for 3 years or you have to just magically have £700, at what point can you not be
It,
self-diagnosed? Because also there's a point where you don't
it
get the diagnosis and magically you start having the symptoms. Like you have
right.
those symptoms for the diagnosis.
That's brilliant you say that because the way I look at that is, okay, let's say I fall down and my arm really hurts. Okay, but
Yeah,
I can't see a doctor for 3 years, or I have to pay $2 million to go
yeah,
private or whatever. Um, I can't say if it's a fracture or a broken bone or anything like that, but I can say this really hurts and I need
yeah,
help
yeah,
now. And
yeah,
and that's so that's kind of where I do the self-diagnosis. It is so valid because
yeah,
unless you can tell someone and have the confidence to say, my fucking arm hurts,
mm-hmm.
help me,
Yeah,
then you can't, like that's just the way
yeah.
I look at that.
No,
Uh,
I agree with that. Like it's got to be there beforehand for you to even consider the diagnosis. So to say that it's
Right?
invalid because it's self-diagnosed is it's pathetic. And it's not to say like obviously a diagnosis definitely solidifies it, but even then, how many people get misdiagnosed
Oh
with
my
certain
God.
things? And it
It's
could just be anything.
I mean, in the US, the numbers are in the millions probably of misdiagnosed things
Yeah.
because I, my belief on it is so you mentioned the morbidities earlier, and I'm sorry, I'm not the most educated individual. I just it takes me a while to remember words. That's my ADHD. But basically, I feel like 80 that this quote disorder is what allows other things that are quote more severe to come in.
Hmm.
As in, if you have ADHD and it's not diagnosed and not treated either by yourself or by a professional, it
Yeah.
allows things to come in like eating disorders, like bipolar
Mhm.
disorder, whatnot, because your brain, it knows what to do and it can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's so how do you build that bridge between knowing what to do and doing it?
Hmm. Yeah, I
That,
agree with that.
I mean, what a struggle that would be. You're
Yeah.
just going to sit beside the bridge and be like, just give me whatever I need to survive for one more day.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I
that's,
feel very similarly about, like this word spectrum. I think it's more commonly seen
oh
with
my God,
autism,
don't,
but this idea we're all somewhere on the spectrum. It's like no,
oh
we're
my
not.
God,
And when
fuck
you
that.
have
No,
less
no.
severe and more severe, or are you high functioning, low functioning? These terms do the exact same thing. Where if you're low, if you're
Yeah.
high functioning, you're just expected to do what everyone else does in society. without the resources that someone low functioning has, just because they're low functioning, whatever that means. Yeah,
It
there's a
means
lot of,
nothing. It means
yeah,
nothing. You have it or you don't. Like
yeah,
that's
exactly.
the well, I mean, yes, stage 4 cancer is really, really bad,
Yeah.
but you can't forget about the person that just got diagnosed with cancer. Like
Exactly.
you
They still
can't
need the
just
treatment.
right. They still need to go through
Yeah.
these
Can't just ignore it and
things.
wait for it to get to stage 4 if that ever happens. Like it's
Right, exactly. So that was a great tangent. I love that. And by the way, I
Thank
love you. You're fucking awesome.
you. Great.
So no, seriously.
I have a lot of anger built up when it comes to this topic because it's
Oh, I do
so
too. I,
unrecognized in
I,
society.
I do too. And honestly, that segues great into the reason I started this entire podcast or whatnot. I'm very privileged. I have a great life. But my wife's best friend took her own life 3 years ago, and she had ADHD,
Right.
and it was diagnosed accurately, in my opinion. But I'm not a doctor, so I can't say that. All that bullshit. And it was bipolar to schizophrenia to this and that and the other. And the one thing that I really hate about it is she truly felt that literally no one understood her.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that shatters my heart. Like I can't stand for any human being, no
Yeah.
matter what they do, what they're going through, to think that they don't have someone else out there that gets it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's why she and I were actually extremely close. Like, and we would hang out and talk, and she's like, "Thank you, just for 10 minutes. I feel like I can tell you what's on my mind, and you don't judge me."
Yeah.
And then when that happened, her husband was also one of my employees and now a current friend, at the time. And so I latched on to him, and
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm going to get you through this. Like it's going to be hard, but we're going to do this. He is now remarried to the love of his life. They live 30 minutes away from us. We see him all the time.
Yeah.
And but if you allow people to just die,
Hmm.
that I can't do that. Like I can't
Yeah.
watch that happen and be like, oh, well, and Adam and I will disagree on this. The whole turn your light on thing. I'm sure you're you're well
Yeah.
aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's different for me. I actually cannot turn my own light on unless I turn someone else's on. Like I just can't.
Yeah.
It's not as motivating. It's not as
Mm.
to me. It's
Yeah.
which he thinks I have a problem, but he and I'll go over this in a week when I see him. Actually, no, he comes to the U.S. Tomorrow. I'll see him
Oh,
tomorrow.
I heard it was on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
how funny is that? But again, a tangent. I'm sorry, I just had
No,
to
that's
do
okay.
that. But so back to your journey.
Yeah. No, that is it is an interesting point because it is a very isolating feeling. And I remember in a similar sense, when I did get the diagnosis, so I guess the kind of the process behind me getting diagnosed was I did end up signing on to it, but initially because I was in counseling for another reason at that point, and my counselor was like, "Oh, through the university, they will often give you like free testing if you do like a certain thing, and they'll pay for you to be tested." And I remember filling out this like form, and it came up with not ADHD, but it came up with dyslexia. And I was like, I'm not dyslexic. What's it? My mum's dyslexic, and it's very obvious that she is dyslexic. I'm not dyslexic. And so I took it again, and the same thing happened. So I ended up emailing them and being like, okay, it's coming up with this, but I think I'm actually showing more symptoms towards ADHD. And they were like, oh, we don't test for that, but we want you to get tested for dyslexia, and that, which is
Oh
a
my
whole thing.
God.
There's a whole mix of thing where I think a lot of people, I feel like ADHD is sometimes classed as a learning disability or a learning difficulty, and then sometimes it's classed as its own disability. Like there's just such a whole mix up of where it sits that it's very confusing in general.
Yeah.
Uh, but
It's labeled as lazy.
Yeah,
most of the time.
it is very much so
It's, oh,
lazy.
you're lazy. Why did you not choose to do this when you knew you had to get this
Yeah,
done? Well, in my mind, I flip that to, you know what? It's because what you think that I needed to do didn't mean shit in the grand scheme of
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. It's
You
not
put me under
important.
pressure and you fucking, you know, and give
Yeah,
me something
exactly.
massive. I will do it in spades.
Yeah. It's also just executive functioning, I think. Like
Right?
if I don't, if I'm gonna like I don't like necessarily like say procrastinating because again people flip that into lazy, but it's
Right.
very much not just the case of cool, I'll get up and do it because you want me to. It's like no, I have to feel like I
It's a
want to do
feel.
it. If I don't want
It's
to do it, I'm not gonna do it. Like,
right. It's the feeling. You've
yeah.
got to be energized. And then when you are, sometimes that's too much for other people. I've
Yeah, I've
noticed
had
this.
a problem
It's
with them.
like
Yeah.
now I'm over the top. Well, you wanted
Yeah.
me to be calmer. And now I'm over the top. Like what the fuck do you want from me?
Yeah.
Like
Like, yeah.
it's
I don't know if you've ever had the luck when you like I get very excited and it comes out very good. Like I'll be like very happy. And I've
yeah.
had people be like kind of frown at me because I'm so excited. And I'm like, oh,
Right. That's
it's
the
a
whole thing.
horrible
It's like,
feeling.
and that is why I started this podcast, is because I want
Yeah.
people to be free to get excited as fuck,
Mhm.
proud of themselves, and love it. Like
Yeah.
that's and
It
love
is
being
such like
excited.
it's great being able to be that. And I think a lot of people do like it and the enthusiasm, but some people just don't seem to like that. But yeah, if I don't want to do something, I don't know about you, but for me, like it can physically almost hurt and
Oh
like
no,
make
it's
me
painful.
happy because I can't make myself do it, and it just
It-
actually hurts to have to go and do that thing.
it's physically painful
Yeah, it
to
is.
it's physically painful to be bored.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it is.
and not stimulated and not have that jolt of energy that you desperately need to do one goddamn thing. And but the thing is, all these other people, all the neurotypicals come to us when they've got a life altering problem that they need help with.
Yeah, and it's
I mean,
like,
how many
oh,
people probably confide in you? I would,
oh, everyone.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been
right,
called the
right.
therapist
That's
before, and I'm like, I'm not a therapist. I'm just
yeah, no,
just
that's
another person.
but that's the whole thing. And my stance on this is I get criticized for the superpower thing, but you know what? It, I can view things the way I want to view things to help me.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
my thought process on this is, you know, if you struggled doing some things well that were, quote, somewhat important, maybe not important enough, whatever, but then all your friends come to you when the shit hits the fan, that's what
Hmm.
ultimately matters in life.
Yeah.
And that to me, that's such an amazing thing. It's like, yeah, we might not be able to do this and this and this, but Jesus, then why are you
Yeah. Yeah.
coming to us when it really fucking matters?
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many things that you like. There's ways around it. Like I said, I like studying, and I like when I kind of developed
Yeah,
systems around my ADHD. I'm really enthusiastic to be able to do those and make those
yeah.
changes to make it more accessible for other people. And so with my job now, I work in administration. I love it, and I'm
Do you
great at
really?
yeah,
You don't have to name the company or whatnot, but
yeah.
administration, where like what is your role basically? Uh,
So I work in like the inductions process. So when we get new starters into a company, I'm the one who like delegates that and sets up the facilitators. It's a lot of like it's good for ADHD, I think, because there's a lot of
yeah.
back and forth. There's always new things. You're never working on the same thing for more than a day, even. It's great. Lots of change.
So when a new employee comes in, you are the one that facilitates them to go to the right spot, whatever. That's leadership,
Yeah.
which is another one of my massive points on ADHD is we make great leaders.
Yeah. I guess we do. I never thought about that because I've always seen myself as a terrible leader.
No. Think about what you do in your job. That's
Yeah,
leadership.
yeah, yeah, I
It's
do.
picking out this person would be better fit for this or whatnot. That's
Yeah.
that's a natural thing because you
Yeah.
care about that
Exactly.
person.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I'm not good in
like
group situations, but if you get me to to lead something, I'll do the back seat stuff of it.
The yeah,
I
it's
don't like being the face front of everything, so I'll do the background stuff.
that's hilarious because I like both, obviously,
Yeah, so,
but that's
yeah,
a difference in my ADHD and yours. And what we've got to get to the point of understanding is unless you understand the individual person with it, you have no fucking chance of understanding what they're going through at all.
yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm kind of iffy. I know it's DSM-5 in America, but we have a different name for it, but I don't know what that is.
It's maybe
Usually.
ICM or something or
Something
whatever.
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even like.
Yeah. It's just a list of things and
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't take into consideration anyone's circumstances. So I have a big issue with
exactly,
that as well.
exactly. Oh,
So
this has been a hell of a tangent.
yeah.
We started with your journey. Now we're getting all pumped up about the good parts
Yeah.
about this. But
Ready to go.
but but God, you are a gem. You are
Yeah.
an absolute gem. Um, this has been amazing. Uh, so back to your journey, if we could even remember where
Yeah.
and
Diagnosis.
you probably can.
I can. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, I was
I
talking
could
about.
never do that. So kudos to
Yeah,
you.
it depends on the situation. It depends what I'm talking about. Sometimes I'll have a clue what I'm talking about, even in the conversation. Um, no, I was saying about getting diagnosed with dyslexia because they wanted to
Yeah,
test me for it, and I was kind of going to say about like the whole like feeling isolated thing. When I was diagnosed, so I had them 2 days apart. I had my ADHD diagnosis one day, and then I had the dyslexia the day after,
right.
and I think I said it. I'm not 100% sure. Like, I didn't really have a lot of like familial support about that. When I told my parents I was thinking of, spending £700 on a test, it was like, oh, that's stupid. You don't need that. You don't have ADHD, blah blah blah.
Oh my God.
And especially at like such a challenging time where this whole thing could completely like I've never considered having ADHD, so that could change my whole like
Right.
course of like thinking and how I
Yeah.
navigate my life essentially. And when I was diagnosed, it was really like a bizarre experience because even though for like a month or two, I had been researching into it and kind of coming somewhat to terms with this is something that I could possibly have. When I was diagnosed, it was such a like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like,
Was it a breath of fresh air or more of a like
it was bad.
no, that's what I mean by that. So some people go through the it's a breath of fresh air, they breathe a sigh of relief, and others get mad and get
Yeah.
depressed at how could someone not have recognized this and helped
Yeah.
me from the beginning. So, but what do you think when you found out?
I think neither. I think
So you're in the middle, basically.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
didn't
Okay.
think, I thought I was lying. Like there was this part of me that was like, did I just like hoodwink this person into thinking like I had ADHD? Like, do
Oh
I not
God.
have it? Did I like somehow manifest these symptoms because I've been looking into it? Am I lying? Is this fake? And then there's the whole like transition from saying nothing to suddenly, oh, I have ADHD, I need help. And even just acknowledging having ADHD was such a huge disconnect in my
Right.
brain. And then the next day I had my dyslexia one. That's something that I never even considered. I hadn't considered the ADHD until a couple months prior, but dyslexia, I was like, I'm dyslexic. And then I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And I remember being on the phone to my parents, just sobbing, saying, I'm
Yeah.
stupid, I'm pathetic,
Oh my God. How tough.
worthless. And how am I, I'm doing a degree and how am I going to pass this degree? I can't do anything. I'm stupid. I'm not going to function in society. And it was this weird isolating spiral to have gone down.
Mm,
And it took a good couple months to kind of come to terms. Because the weird thing is that, like I said, I had friends who had ADHD, who were dyslexic, who were autistic, and not once had I looked at them and been like, you can't function in society,
right.
get out. Not once did that come across my mind, but for some
Right.
reason, when it was a personal experience, it was this really hateful, like,
We're quick to give praise to others and not
yeah,
quick to give praise to ourselves. And
yeah,
and I think
exactly.
that's mental health across the board. We want to help others so badly that we kind of forget to say how awesome we are.
Yeah.
And like we
Yeah.
forget to say, Leah, you're a fucking badass. Low bow, I'm fucking awesome. Like
Yeah.
that's it, that literally. Like
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
It's very weird. And I think as well, there's
I-
just I don't know, like I think I just didn't believe it and I completely disassociated from what it even meant to have it. And it doesn't change a single thing about me. Like obviously
right.
it's great to have the awareness of it and I would say that it's developed me as a person knowing that I have,
Yeah.
these conditions, but it doesn't change. I'm not suddenly going to become like a different person because I have this diagnosis. It was just such a bizarre
Do
experience.
you think it's your perception, which a lot of ADHD people have? Like you could probably instantly read someone you meet
Hmm.
within a split second. Like I
Oh,
get
100%.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's actually one of the gifts I think is being able to.
Yeah,
Because that's a
absolutely.
massive advantage in life if you could do that. Um,
Yeah.
but when you went to go get the diagnosis and all those things, you were saying that it was you know, you go through your head, did I coerce this person? Did I convince?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can do that. We can turn on that switch
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Like last
coerce
year.
anyone to do anything. And
Yeah.
but that's something that they might need to be better trained in is recognizing
Mhm.
when we feel
Yeah.
bad about getting diagnosed. Like this is not
Yeah.
a this is not a death sentence. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be. You're
Yeah.
different. You're different. You're not
Yeah.
wrong.
Absolutely. It kind of made
That
me think just kind of what you were saying about your friend and how many people probably do feel isolated and have those negative thoughts. And it's because I don't think people are equipped to know how to deal with it. Like even with a diagnosis, I mean, I don't know other people's
exactly.
experiences, but it's just kind of like, you have this diagnosis, we'll send the report next week. And there's no, okay, here's how we're actually going to go forward for this. This is what it means to you. This is the kind of support you can get.
Right.
Nothing. It's just, okay, I have these. It's almost like a list of symptoms is telling you why you're not good enough or the things that you can't do. And
Yeah.
that's what it felt like to me is it's like, oh, someone with ADHD. Like I was diagnosed with predominantly inattentive. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in
They do that shit
I
here
assume
too,
it's
but like I
similar,
mean
like
it's not
hyperactive inattention.
right.
It's the same
I
thing.
was the hyperactive, but I got diagnosed at age 5. And so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. People
that
change.
that's my privilege of like my parents recognized,
Yeah.
got me to the doctor and said, "We don't give a shit what the world thinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
He needs help."
Yeah.
And that was a massive difference in me being successful later.
The education system as well. I feel like it is very much a one size fits all, no room for everything. So if you don't fit into that mold, then you're just simply a disruptive kid that doesn't pay attention rather than, or maybe this kid actually has a different way of learning. And I think that's why I like academic studies so much is because I
Right.
learn at my own pace, at my own rate, and it's specifically things that I have an interest in. Like I'm going to be doing a master's in September in history
No
because it's
shit.
I super love history. And so
Congratulations on
thank
that. That's
you.
awesome.
So I'm really excited for that. But if they were like, okay, you're gonna do, if someone was like, can you help me with my maths homework? I'd be a terrible student if I was in maths. Like I'd be horrible. I'd be never there at
That's
lectures. I'd be bored all the time. Like it's just you have to make something fit that person. It's such an individual experience rather than, oh,
yeah.
you didn't pass GCSE maths, so you're a terrible person and you're not going to accomplish anything in
And that's
life.
how I felt when I
Like,
got held back all the time and all that. It was like, you're a bad person. You're not a
yeah.
good person because at that age, what I'm being judged on is
Hmm.
how well I'm doing in school. Well, how about
Yeah.
this? How about you judge me on how well I'm treating people, how
Yeah.
well I'm interacting with others? How about you give a class on that? I can teach
Or
that
just
fucking
change the way
shit in
you
five
deliver the
seconds.
class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Or than
Yeah.
just sit reading a book in silence. Like, how about we actually do something engaging and then maybe I'll pay attention for once.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Like I remember we used to in primary school, we used to make like
That's
we
awesome.
actually would use books to study, but me and my friends, we made like a separate group and we would act out the books. So we would each become a character and we would deliver that to the class. Loved it, absolutely loved history because of that. Like it's letting people take that lead with their education. It really bothers me, the education system. It's
I
so
love how energetic you're getting right now. I like this is I love that you
so
get so
mad at
passionate
it.
about this. This is I I'm the same way. It's so funny it's not funny, it's just awesome. When someone
Mm.
first comes on, they don't know what to expect, and then gradually it builds to like
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like we're just going back and forth all over the place.
A lot
That's what I think
happening.
this should be. Like
Yeah, you should, yeah.
it's just
Because that's another
understanding.
thing is how people talk about mental health. I feel like there's a lot of just no swearing. We're going to be very monotone. We're not allowed to mention certain words and stuff like that. And it's like the people that you're just restricting people's ability
Right.
to
And
say how they feel
that's not
about things.
real. Like that's not a
Yeah,
normal thing.
exactly.
People cuss, people get animated. That's
Ah,
real
yeah.
life. So
Especially
like
for people who are neurodivergent, I feel like that's kind of their thing is being animated.
that's probably why I'll never be famous, is because I curse
I
so
know Jim
much.
Carrey did it. Yeah,
But
amazing.
Leah, this is God, this is eh, again, and I do this every single episode because it's just the truth. I've not met one person with ADHD in all of this time of doing this, which is not long, but to me it is, uh, that is not this amazing person.
Mm.
And literally, I mean, it's probably 80 now or
Oh
90,
wow.
maybe, and not one, not a single
Yeah,
one. I've never had to like cancel an episode because someone was a little bit. Every person I've met with ADHD is fucking phenomenal.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I completely agree with that. Like what I was saying kind of
It,
at the beginning, like I don't really know anyone who's not some kind of neurospicy, I have to say. And so like I think that helps massively. And I feel like there is this like kind of unspoken draw to each other that people who are
yeah,
neurodivergent have with one another because they just simply understand each other. And it's I
and
agree.
it's almost
Overall,
like
I agree.
a get out of jail free card to the world.
Yeah,
It's you know
it
what,
is.
the world put you in jail. We can let you out for a little bit, okay? Like that's
Yeah,
and that's amazing.
totally.
Uh, so anything else about your journey before I go into the final question?
Yeah. Um,
I mean, you pretty well summed it up there. I mean, because you're successful now, you're getting a
yeah, I
master's, you're
feel
doing,
like
like,
it kind of turned around. Like, I mean, I was given a mentor because I actually had a lot of problem. They were supposed to give like the university, my final year was supposed to give like equipment that made it like fair and equal. Oh my God, that was a terrible thing that happened. It's like, oh gosh, like that's another thing that just brings me back to education is we had to do a dissertation, 15,000 words for our dissertation. And one of
yeah,
our assessments, I loved the dissertation, that was fine. The assessment that I didn't like was reading 30 to 40 articles on a topic that we didn't know if we were going to do or not. It was just kind of in the area
nope.
and it had to be read. And I remember we had 2 weeks to do this. And I remember talking to my mentor and being like, this isn't possible for me. I have ADHD, I have dyslexia, I have no systems in place to support me with this. Is it possible that I use video software and quote that instead because it's easier for me to understand that? No, that would be too easy, was the response
Oh,
that I
well,
was given. And
fuck that.
it's that kind of thing as well as I think people severely underestimate. It's one of those things I've always compared it to this, and it's not to underestimate anyone with physical disabilities at all, but if someone with a wheelchair strolled up to a flight of stairs and was like, I can't get up there, people would be like,
Yeah.
oh no, of course, here's the lift. But as soon as it's, oh, here I walk in completely able-bodied, I can't do this thing that everyone else is doing. Oh, that's ridiculous. You're
That's a
exaggerating. Too
great
easy.
way to
Yeah, and it
explain that.
feels bad because you're comparing it. It's not to
Yeah.
compare each other. It's just it is the same thing, disability,
Yeah.
physical, or inside your head. Like it doesn't matter. Like it
Eh,
really does give me this
God,
misconception.
is that fascinating? That's a great way to put that. It, I think a lot of us would be the ones that walk in able-bodied, and then there's someone in a wheelchair trying to get up the stairs. So we hook up some ropes and some carabiners, and we
Yeah,
get them over the stairs to get. So like, I feel
yeah,
like
exactly.
a lot of our personalities are what the greatest moments of in life are built on. Like
Yeah,
what ultra successful person is normal? Well,
yeah,
they say, "Fuck
exactly.
this, I'm doing it this way," and then all of a sudden now they're revered.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
we have to go through all this
exactly.
bullshit to get just someone to say, "Hey, by the way, great job."
Yeah, Yeah, it is.
How
It
hard
is.
is it to tell someone great job? Like with
Yeah,
the,
or just here, here's an accommodation for you, so you can at least be on the equivalent as that person. Like
it's very
equity
frustrating.
is such a unknown thing to people who are neurodivergent. I feel like we don't really get. I mean, maybe I know there are some ways to get there. My job's great with it, but school systems aren't. I forgot what I was even talking about to get to that point
Awesome.
in
That's fantastic, and I love it. That's it. But I think at the end of the day, you make one of the greatest leaders I've encountered because look at what you do.
I guess. Yeah. I think
Meeting
when I think of leading, it's like I'm going to take charge of this group, but I can't do that.
Well, but here's the thing though, is you were saying at the beginning when you were in school that it was socially awkward or whatnot, like you wanted to be in the classroom. But now
Yeah.
you kind of flipped that. Look at what you're doing. You're taking on new people and being
Putting them in
like,
the
I
classroom.
think you right, right. Yeah,
Yeah. You get to the classroom now.
that's it. That's a, don't you put me in a classroom, Leah. I'll
Yeah.
tell you right now.
I'll put your name on
but
Microsoft.
yes, but you're the type of person that can read people and then
Mm,
know where they would be best fit. That
yeah.
ha- that is being amazing at human skills.
Yeah. I find that a lot with neurodivergent people. I don't know if it's because many of
Eh,
us have to kind of grow up masking and
Right.
learning
Eh,
how to
Yep.
sit with
100%.
people, like kind of what we were saying before about if you're over enthusiastic about something, you're weird and it's too much. You kind of learn to
Exactly.
delegate yourself in a group in a way that's comfortable for them almost. So when I feel like that's more the case when you're younger, and I don't know, like if this is a common experience or if it's because I'm so surrounded by people who are like me. But as I'm older, I find that I'm actually like I can just be who I want to be. I don't know, I can't remember what I was talking about.
No, no, no. You know what that's called though? Is confidence.
Yeah, yeah. You become
It's
far more confident. And
that's my again another one of my things is if you have the confidence to say, by the way, I don't know how to do this shit. I'm probably never going to do it. Can you help me? That's what getting a
yeah,
diagnosis is in a lot of
yeah,
cases
yeah,
is like, you know what? But it starts with confidence and the world
yeah.
beating these people down for
Mhm.
thinking differently is not fucking okay.
Yeah. And then you can
It-
identify in other people, I think is a big thing. It's like I can tell when somebody else isn't comfortable or if like
right.
I know I since being diagnosed myself, I can spot those symptoms a lot more in other
Yeah,
people. And so I know how to kind
exactly.
of I mean it is kind of I know it's something that can be considered annoying by people. I
I
tend
think
to
it's
I,
great.
I
I
go
don't think it's
straight
annoying at
fixing
all.
the problem.
Right, right. We go
That's my thing.
directly
Like,
to
how
what
can I
the
help you?
right. Direct. Sorry for interrupting, but that's
No.
ADHD is what we
Yeah,
do.
yeah, that's fine.
Because if I don't get the thought out, it's gone
Yeah,
forever.
yeah,
Uh,
done. Yeah.
but you go directly to what the most important thing is,
Mm,
and you cut out all the bullshit.
yeah,
Number one,
yeah,
that's leadership. Number two, that's management. Number three, that's just being a fucking badass and different in this world.
yeah,
I literally, it's so difficult for me to understand how you don't just pick out the ADHD people and say, run this shit.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Good. I always forget what we're doing after three tasks.
exactly.
But
Because
it,
the
it depends
ADHD
on
person will come in and say, all right, I'll save the world, but you're gonna have to
yeah,
do the
yeah,
dishes. You're gonna have to do the dishes, and you're gonna
yeah.
have to
You do
make
the
the bed
boring
because
things. Yeah, I would do that.
that's the whole thing. Is I think that eh, how could you not want to be around us when
Fantastic.
when it's exciting? And
Yeah.
yeah, we
And
go through the low spots, and this is not all sunshine and roses, but the problem is the reason that we can't harp on our best strengths is because the world is telling us that we suck.
yeah.
That's
Like,
not fair.
what's wrong with you? What do you mean? And that's kind of coming back to that whole thing where people and I see it a lot with people with ADHD too, where they're like, don't talk about these things as your superpowers. And again, I feel like it's one of those things that it's almost putting yourself down to say, okay, well, these are the things that I struggle with.
Yeah.
And then when you say, well, but these things aren't my gifts or my superpower, it's kind of like, then what's positive about me, really? It's just these the things I
That's
should
the whole,
do.
see, exactly. That's a great way to say that because are you familiar with basketball? Do you
Yeah,
watch? Okay.
a
So
little bit, yeah.
we're going to miss 90% of our free throws. Okay. We just are
Mhm.
because it's boring and everyone's standing on either
Yeah,
side. Give us the ball when the game is on the line and we fucking make it
yeah, every time. Yeah. I
every time. Then at the end of the day, they're the people that make all their free throws and then miss the game winning shot. They're like, I'm so jealous of that person. Why didn't they make their free throws?
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me. Everyone has unique skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that with like hyperfixations. Everyone, I feel like people who are neurodiverse generally, I know with ADHD, it's kind of our hyperfixations. We choose our little
Yeah.
interests and then we get hard on them. And that this is something that like I've had not criticism, but I've definitely had some jealousy around, more so because like a lot of people will do something casually and be like, oh, I'm really
Right.
interested in this. And then I pick up on it and I'm like, okay, but did you know this? And I list 20 things that they didn't know, and I'm somehow more advanced than them now because it's all I've done for the past 24 hours. And it can be quite frustrating for the people. But for me, I see that as like a very positive thing. Because if you can
It
put
is.
something that I'm
It,
interested in, I will go ham and I will
absolutely.
do the best.
And the key thing to that, I think, is when you deliver all of that to those people or whatnot, that they love you as a person first. So they can
Yeah.
understand you that when you do that, they don't take offense to it. They welcome it.
Yeah.
They love it. You know, the best comment in my life is it's low bow being low bow.
Yeah.
That's my favorite comment, because then we can joke around, but then all of a sudden they do what I say, and then it's like
Yeah.
who's spastic now, fucker? But
Yeah. Yeah.
but honestly, it, my big thing is friendship. I think friendship, very close friends, accounts for I would say 90% of healing with any mental health disorder you have.
Oh,
If
100%.
I mean that's to me, if you've got a couple people around you that genuinely understand you because they love you as a person, maybe they don't love your disorder, maybe they don't love, whatever, but they love you because you're authentic as fuck. That will help them so much
Yeah.
in life. And what it takes, though, to do that is confidence to genuinely be yourself and to care about others.
Hmm. Yeah.
If you do that, it literally comes back to you tenfold.
Yeah, it
Then,
does. And I often think as well when I think about like my friends and probably what they think about me as well is like even though your disorder can come with like nitpicky, annoying little
right,
traits,
right,
also my favorite things about all the people around me are also related to their or it's because of their diagnosis. Like
right.
they're incredible at problem solving or they're incredible at doing this art or something like that. And it's all because of whatever's going on in their brain. So it's there's a lot of good things to it. I think people just focus on the negative in society, and it's
And
even
that's
then it's
that's
kind of
honestly the
overlooked.
problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
whatever disease you have, physical or mental, if you don't have people at your bedside pumping you up to get better, you're going to
Hmm.
quit.
Yeah.
And that's to me, no matter what it is, anything. I'm not going to say that you can overcome everything because that's not realistic,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it damn sure gives you better odds of doing well.
it does. Absolutely. Like
Eh,
people around you, they change everything. Like I said, I don't
yeah,
feel normal or weird anymore. I think that's honestly a big part of why I accepted my ADHD and dyslexia
yeah,
is because of the people around me and how incredible they are, often as a result of those things. So it's kind of like,
right.
oh, maybe I'm not pathetic and terrible at everything.
Exactly, because they love you and they say,
Yeah,
"Oh, by the way, you may have failed the fucking algebra tests, but
yeah, yeah.
you know what?
But
You
check out
did
this
this
day.
really awesome." Right, exactly.
Yeah,
That's being a friend. That's
yeah.
that's being a friend. So, um, every Friday at 5:30 p.m. EST, which is probably 11:30 y'all's time, or at not sure. So everyone that has been on this podcast is invited to get together and shoot the shit for an hour. It's non-recorded. It's not a podcast. It's nothing. We just get together, interrupt each other, make fun of each other, and just have fun. So,
Oh, that sounds like such a mess. I like that.
oh, it's a huge mess, and it's the most awesome mess in the world.
Yeah.
But so you will be invited to that. No pressure at all. If you want to unsubscribe, do it. It's not a personal. Like, I get it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
no
That
big
sounds
shit.
really cool.
We have like between 5 and 10 each week out of the night, so people come and
Yeah.
go as they please, but there is no judgment there. Like,
Hmm.
it's not, oh, well, why isn't this person here? Or why is it? No, it's going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to a bar with friends during happy hours. Like, that's literally
Yeah,
all it is. You come when you want,
that
you
sounds
leave when
really
you want.
cute.
That's it.
I love
So,
that.
last question for you, Leah. And this is a very this is the hardest question for anyone with ADHD to
Uh,
answer that I've found. What in your life are you the most proud of? Now, here's the thing with this. It has to be a characteristic within you. It cannot be, I am proud of, you know, kids or a relationship or whatever. It has to be individual to yourself. What characteristic are you most proud of?
You're asking me to look in panel.
It's very difficult. It's extremely difficult. And but I feel like it's important for
I think it is my passion for things.
excellent.
That
Excellent.
yeah. Like I
Excellent.
said, I'm
That's
very passionate
perfect. That's
about history.
perfect. That's perfect. It's
Yeah.
passion, creativity, determination, leadership. This like that's who we are.
It is. Yeah. I feel like again it comes back to that. If you're bored of it, you're not gonna do great. But if you
Nope.
do like it, oh, it's like a whole like I feel like people can't compete with people with like neurodivergent conditions when
Oh
it
no.
comes to like being passionate about something. It's a whole other scale of it's
So
probably boring for them at how much we'll go into.
so I'm gonna pump myself up because that's what I do. I'm confident enough to do this right now.
Yeah.
The passion to do something. So I liked one football team, college football team.
Mhm.
Not let's see, not soccer. American football. There we go. I've had one job my entire life. I work for this college football team. It's been 20 years. I've had
That's amazing.
one job because every day I wake up and I get motivated as shit to be like, this is exciting. Things change. It's high
Yeah.
stress, but it's so goddamn fun.
Yeah.
And no amount of money or no amount of criticism for it can ever take that away from me. That's what we do. We find something, we latch onto it.
I see a lot of people like I feel like money is such a big drive for a lot of people.
Oh
But
God, that'll never make you happy ever.
yeah, but like my dad is 100% ADHD. He's not diagnosed, but I
Right.
know I get it from him. I know that I get it from him. And he's the same, like he's always encouraged me, do what you love because what's the point in doing something if you're gonna find it boring every day, you're not gonna want to do it anymore. Like you have to do something you love even if it pays less.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly where I'm at.
yeah, like I don't see like when I think of a career in the future, I don't see the money. I want it to be related to this specific thing. And like that's it.
Well, because like you said, your passion, you're proud of your passion. When you're
Yeah.
passionate about something, the money will come because
Yeah,
you'll be
exactly.
better at that job than anyone else
Yeah.
that isn't passionate about it. So
Exactly.
it actually does translate into financial later. It's the
Mhm.
problem is everyone says you don't have enough patience. Yes, we're highly impatient, but not if we love it. If
I
we
think
love it,
that's, if anything, a benefit. Like I get really
yeah.
frustrated when I
th-
don't know things, when I have to learn things. I don't like that. I don't like not knowing things. So then
Right.
I will excessively research within the space of an hour, and all of a sudden I'm an expert in something.
Exactly.
So like, it's
Exactly.
not the impatience benefits
Leah,
us because
I love you. This has been so fun.